When I was working for the conservative political organization in the state of Iowa that I mentioned, I discovered that each time I presented opportunities for Christians to reach out in love to the gay and lesbian people in Des Moines, I would have maybe 3 or 4 people show up. But when I presented, and the determining factor, by the way, on that point was whether or not I invited 3 or 4 of my friends. So this gives you an idea for the kind of environment we're talking about. But when I presented opportunities for Christians in Des Moines to oppose homosexuals politically, I'd have 100 people show up. So I had to ask myself the question, what is driving these apathetic and sometimes even angry militant attitudes towards the gay community from Christians? And I want to make it clear that the people that had a hard time loving gays and lesbians in Des Moines, it wasn't the people that I worked with at the Policy Center, because I worked with very godly men and women who had a very humble spirit and cared deeply for the gay and lesbian community. But it was a lot of the constituency that I had a hard time with. And so I had to ask myself the question, what are they so angry about? Why are they so hostile? And the only conclusion I could come to was homophobia. Now, I get in trouble sometimes with Christians for using this word. People tell me that the word was invented by gay activists for the sole purpose of attacking Christians and that I shouldn't use it. But I think in some cases it might just be an accurate description. I mean, homophobia to me simply means a fear of homosexuals. But my Bible tells me that perfect love casts out fear. So I think we have an obligation as God's people to deal with homophobia in the Christian church. And I think one of the major driving forces behind this homophobia is the way that many in the Christian church have stereotyped gay and lesbian people. And so I want to kind of give you guys 3 bullet points that I believe are some of the major driving forces behind Christian stereotypes of gay and lesbian people. The first thing I want to talk about is the media. Christian media publications often paint a very negative and stereotypical picture of gay and lesbian people. In fact, I was on a website not too long ago, a Christian website, that had a page about homosexuality and the gay agenda and all that stuff. And the graphic on this website, they had a picture of a homosexual man scowling at a little boy as if he was about to hurt him. And the man's face has been tinted green as if to suggest that he was a demon of some kind. And this wasn't a fringe movement. I mean, this was a mainstream conservative Christian organization. It's this whole idea that homosexuals are gay pedophiles, demonic gay pedophiles that are going to get your kids, that I kind of have a problem with. And of course, they wouldn't say that. They would say that they love gay and lesbian people and want to demonstrate grace. But why is that graphic on their website? And what message are they trying to convey with it? So that's just one example. But I think it's important to realize that gay media publications do the same thing to Christians. A lot of gay media publications paint a very negative and stereotypical picture of Christians. They paint people like me as a fake or freak or a puppet of the religious right. And so when someone from the gay and lesbian community comes face to face with someone from the conservative evangelical world, there's this tension because we've been lied to about each other. There was a video produced by a political organization in the Midwest that showed clips of homosexuals marching at a gay pride parade in San Francisco. And of course, the homosexuals were all half naked and shouting obscenities, and the video was being distributed to evangelical Christians to say, see, this is what gay people are like. They're coming after your kids. They're coming after your schools. They're going to get you. Sorry, I get excited. But I remember watching this video and thinking to myself, this is absurd. I mean, this makes about as much sense as taking a video of Fred Phelps and distributing it to the entire gay community and saying, see, this is what all Christians are like. Fred Phelps, for those of you who don't know, is the pastor from Topeka, Kansas, who travels all over the country with picket signs that says, God hates fags. That's why I think another one of the things that fuels Christian stereotypes of gay and lesbian people is our involvement in politics. Those who are involved in politics are often so angered by the political endeavors of gay rights groups that they can't separate the politics from the people. And I'm not saying that everyone's like this. I think it takes a very mature Christian to be able to be involved in politics on an issue like this. It takes a very mature Christian to be able to take all the hatred and venom that is likely going to be spewed at them by a percentage of the people with whom they disagree and still respond in God's love. In my own experience, I've seen very few people that have this calling and this level of maturity, but they are out there. And so I don't want to say that it's illegitimate for us to involve ourselves in politics. I just believe it takes a very mature Christian to be able to handle it. I mean, when I was working for the Policy Center, I witnessed Christian people treating those with whom they disagreed on moral and social issues very disrespectfully. And it wasn't just homosexuality, it was gambling, abortion, euthanasia, you name it. And so I realized that the political process seems to bring out the worst in people because it has a tendency sometimes to put us in attack mode. Someone who is gay or lesbian may never be able to understand how it's possible for a Christian to oppose their right to get married and still love them. And I'm not saying that everyone in this room opposes gay marriage. We may have a variety of different political persuasions in this room, but many conservative Christians oppose gay marriage. And to the gay and lesbian person, hearing someone say, I love you, but I oppose your right to get married, is like hearing someone say, I love you, but I hate you. See, it's very hard for them to believe that they're loved by someone who they perceive is preventing them from getting civil rights. And that's their perception, you have to understand. I mean, if I was a gay man who honestly believed that my homosexual attractions were unchangeable, an inherent, unchangeable part of my identity, I would probably view conservative Christians as bigots, just as many of them do. See, if you put yourself in their shoes, you can understand why they think we hate them. Now, in some cases, I believe it might be necessary to take a stand on politics, as I mentioned before. But we need to get our priorities straight. Nobody has any business reading a single book on how to oppose homosexuals politically until we've read a book on how to love them personally. Because if we succeed in defeating homosexuals politically, but in the process we alienate them from God's love, then we have won the battle but lost the war. The third thing that I believe contributes to Christian stereotypes of gay and lesbian people is the way that we present our research. There's one study that says that the average lifespan of a homosexual is 42 years. There's another study that says that 43% of male homosexuals reported having more than 500 partners during their lifetime. Some conservative interest groups use numbers like these to stereotype gay and lesbian people. I mean, can you imagine telling your son or daughter that heterosexuality is inherently evil because America has a divorce rate estimated at 43%? Or because 30% of the women killed in the U.S. die at the hands of a husband or boyfriend? It just doesn't make sense. It seems to me like a double standard. I mean, when I go to the bars in downtown Des Moines, and sometimes I'm walking around, we have 3 or 4 gay bars down there, I see what appears to be some pretty promiscuous homosexuals, and a lot of them probably are going to go get drunk and take a stranger home for sex and then repeat the process the next night. But when I get past the gay bars and I walk past the normal bars where a lot of the heterosexuals hang out, I kind of see the same thing going on. And so when people use the term homosexual lifestyle, which just assumes that everyone who's gay kind of lives this kind of lifestyle where they get drunk and take a stranger home for sex, I don't know what it means. I don't know what homosexual lifestyle means. Homosexuals live a variety of different lifestyles just like heterosexuals do. I think the term homosexual lifestyle is a stereotype that Christians have kind of put on the gay and lesbian community, and it's offensive to many of them as well. If we're going to learn to love homosexuals as Jesus would, we have to realize that the Christian church has a very sordid history on this issue. The televangelists of the 1980s malignantly characterized gay and lesbian people as pedophiles, while many Christians today are so busy trying to oppose homosexuals politically that we've barely taken the time to ask the question, how would Jesus love a homosexual?